and I'm starting 5 minutes ago. So I'm going to be delivering my whole keynote, and I'm going to bring you along for the ride. Here we go. All right. Or maybe. 'm about to go up on stage for the 3 people who've tuned in. What up? And I'm delivering my superpower keynote to a whole bunch of schools. So what am I doing? I'm at a school and I'm about to speak to 250 students, grade 7ers here in Australia. And you've got front row tickets the whole way. 12 o'clock, midday, right in the middle of the day.
started. We're very, very lucky today. We've got Shane Sheridan who's going to give us a presentation that will last us most of this lesson. It's a very good presentation that really leads into my PV. So you can start to recognise what your strengths are, what you are good at, right? And that's a big part of what the MyPV process is about. Right? I just want to clear some things up. We've had a few questions about how the MyPV process works. Right? Some of you will either staying back after school or coming into school this afternoon to meet with your care teachers, right, to discuss what we call MyPV, about goal setting, about working out what your strengths, what your interests are. For most of you, so you will be coming in tomorrow. If you do not come into school tomorrow, there are no school classes tomorrow. Right? You will come into school in your school uniform with your parents or whoever you're coming in with, and you will meet with your care teachers for about 20 minutes. Right? That is the only time you're at school. So no school tomorrow, so a few people have asked that question already. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is in a couple of weeks, right, we've got our Napoleon exams on, right? That is done on, thank you, that is done on your laptop, right? So when you come to your MyPV interviews, you should get a little piece of paper, right, and it tells you how to download the browser, right, so we are already playing catch-ups, right, in week 7, trying to get you to download the stuff onto your laptop. Okay? So when you come to your MyPV interviews either this afternoon or tomorrow, you'll be given some pretty simple instructions on how to download that information. It's all on the Q-Learn anyway. If any of you are pretty simple, you'll probably work out how to do it already. Okay? Now, what I would like and what I expect from you Year 7 for the next probably 50 to 55 minutes, right, is giving Sharish your full attention and respect. Right, it's a very, very enjoyable presentation. I think you will learn a lot from it. Right, and that is all for me. So now I'm going to hand over to Seamus. Hello, everybody. How are we feeling? Who's excited that it's a Monday? All right. Is it a Friday? You want it to be Friday. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'm going to give you a pop quiz. Now, this is easy because you're allowed to just shout out the answers. Not yet. When I ask you the question. Alright, this is to see if your brain is alert. Question 1. What day is it? You're quick, good. Alright, hang on. What colour is the sky? What city do we live in? No, I'll give you a really easy one. If a comet was travelling towards Earth at 10,000 kilometers a second, and if it hits Earth, and we all blow up and die, will we have school tomorrow? Well, I've got news for you. You will have school. You'll never sleep. No, ready? Here's the question. What does NASA do when that comet is travelling towards Earth? Blow it up. Hang on. How does NASA save the world from being blown up and stopping the comet hitting Earth? Okay. I've got some really good answers. Answer number 1, they blow it up. Answer number 2, they redirect it. I'll tell you what they do. They shoot up a giant object, a massive, huge object to go next to the comet. And just being next to it, such a large object, using gravity, it creates a gravitational pull. And they guide it off course by just 1 degree. So if it's traveling towards Earth, and they knock it off course by just 1 degree, over hundreds and thousands of kilometers, by the time it's meant to hit Earth, it completely misses it. How boring! I want the rocket, the fireworks, man! But the reason why I always ask that, and it ties into why I'm here, what I'm talking to you about. Everybody here, we all have a comet.
coming towards our earth. My name is Seamus Evans, and I go all over the country and I share my story about my comment, my flaw, my setback, something that makes me different to everybody, something that I'm insecure about and that I hate about myself. This flaw, how I've turned it into a superpower. And this superpower, this flaw is not something that holds me back. In fact, it's something that separates me and has equipped me with all these coping mechanisms and these tools and I've embraced a role, and now this is my superpower. And I've gone through 3 simple tips and I'm going to share them with you in just a moment. But first, I'm going to tell you what my flaw is. Does anybody know what Tourette syndrome is? Yes? Would you like to, in a loud voice, stand up and explain it to everybody? All right, everybody listening, what's your name, miss? Sky. With a loud voice, Sky, what's Tourette's? When you can't control your body that much. Big round of applause for Sky! So, I asked that question at every school that I go to, and I asked that, and there was 2,000 kids. It was a really big school. And this kid in grade 5 shot his hand up, and I ran into the crowd and said, "What's Tourette's?" And he stole the mic. He goes, "It's making me crazy. He's got mental problems. And my sister has it. And my parents, they keep fighting over it." I was like, whoa! Too far, man. Tourette syndrome is a neurological condition, and it's made up of tics, both motor and vocal tics. Now, you must have both motor and vocal in order to be diagnosed with Tourette's. And this is how it works. Everybody's brain, everyone in here, our brains, just to stay alive, will send off random messages. These are unwanted signals from your brain to your body just to stay alive and self-regulate, right? And these are unwanted messages. They might be like, blink your eyes, click your fingers, squeeze your butt cheeks. They're unwanted. But this is how it works. Everybody's brain has a gate to stop those unwanted signals firing through. But people with Tourette's have a weak gate, so that signal ends up firing through. Imagine if you had a farm with 2 paddocks, one with sheep, one without. There's a fence all the way around, but in the middle, there was no lock on the gate and it's swinging open. What do you think eventually would happen to the other paddock? The sheep would go through exactly right. And that's a very simple way of summing up a very complex neurodiverse condition. Many other conditions that can come with Tourette's. ADHD, I also have. Many people with Tourette's might also be autistic or have OCD. Many people who are neurodiverse can struggle with mental health and be prone to depression, anxiety, having sleep disorders. Now, this is what it feels like when I get a tic. My brain will send that message to my body and it's just like an itch. You know when you're just desperate to scratch that itch, maybe it's a stone in your shoe, and you finally take your shoe off and let that stone out, and you're like, oh, it feels so good. Or like, you know when you scratch a dog behind the ear, and the dog goes, and you finally scratch it? That's what it feels like. Oh, you know what it feels like? When my brain sends that message and I finally scratch that itch. It's like, you know when you have a cotton bud? And you're cleaning out your ear and you just go a little bit too far and you go, oh. That's what it feels like when I finally satisfy that itch. Now, I was born with Tourette's. In fact, I've had Tourette's my whole life. So many different tics. And, 1 in 100 kids have Tourette's. And 1 in 200 adults have Tourette's. And there is no cure. If you have Tourette's, you've got it for your whole life. And I was born with it. I've got so many different tics. Do you want to see all of my tics? Yeah. Do you want to see all of my tics? One person does it. That's okay. All right. This is what we're going to do. I want everybody looking up here, and I want you all to count out loud, collectively, each tic I do. So we're all going to be like 1, 2, 3. There's one person that's always going to go 6, 7. Okay. Ready? Shh. Watching.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Yeah, man.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Okay, around. How many did we get? Did I do that much? Okay. Can I tell you how funny it is having Tourette's? Like this one. When I'm walking down the street and someone's walking towards me and I go, the person always thinks I'm saying hello to them and they're like, "G'day, mate, where have I met you before?" But I don't want to be a weirdo and be like, "Oh, I don't know you. Oh, I don't know you. Oh, I've got Tourette's." This one, how is that not hilarious? You know, when I'm at a cafe and I'm waiting, I'm in line at a cafe ordering a coffee and there's a line of people behind me, and I go, because nobody thinks they hear that and go, "Oh, that sound obviously came from his mouth," providing me with some very awkward situations. And you know, with COVID, we always had to wear masks. I'd be standing there waiting for my coffee and go, and then I'd look around and I go, "It was me! Oh, yeah, I've got Tourette's." Or, this one. Do you know how weird that is? I was training for a marathon. And if you run long distances, you can get a rash. And I was running, and I kept getting this rash, and I had to pull my shirt off because I was getting a rash. And I thought, I know, to stop that, I'll run without my shirt on. But that motion, that became a tic. So I'm running down the street without my shirt on, going, "Oh, oh, 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 oh." Everyone's like, "Ah! Someone call the police! There's a crazy man down here squeezing his nipple. And it looks like he's put a cotton bud in his ear." Or, who has been to the movies or caught an aeroplane? And you know how there's always a shared armrest? And you never know whose it is, and it's always a battle, like whose armrest is it? The best thing about having a Tourette's is I win that battle every time. Because I sit there and go, the person goes, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I go, he's like, "Whoa!" I remember when I was younger, I said to my mum, I said, "Mum, I want to join the army." And Mum said, "Seamus, I'm sorry, I don't think the military will take someone who's neurodiverse, has ADHD and Tourette's." And I was like, "Well, I might be able to join the band. I could play the drums. I might even be able to play the trombone." Let's face it, I won't be a very good sniper. Come in, Seamus. You're the best sniper in the world. We need your steady hands to take out the target. This is Seamus here. Target inside, I'll fly with it. So, there is no cure for Tourette's. No cure. If you have it, you've got it for life. My cure, being 35 years of age, my cure is being able to stand up here and make those jokes and actually control what you're laughing at and make you laugh with me rather than laughing at me. Because when I was your age, I hated it. I hated having Tourette's. It made me different to everyone. I didn't ask for it. I didn't want it. I didn't choose it.
That was my comment coming towards me. That was my flaw. That was my diagnosis. That was my setback. And let me tell you, in life, we don't get to choose what happens to us. That is out of our control. And I hated the fact that I was different to everyone at school. And having these noises, these movements, these sounds, they were so distracting to everybody and they caught everyone's attention. And they would always say hurtful comments. Seamus, you're a freak. You're a weirdo. Take your medication. You're not allowed to sit with us. Your tics are contagious. Plus, having ADHD, I couldn't sit still. And I couldn't concentrate. And when the teacher was speaking, every time the teacher would talk, the information would go through my ears, pass through my brain, and straight out the other side. I could never focus. And as a result, I failed. I was always falling behind in my subjects, in my classes. Not only was I getting treated like this by my schoolmates, but I was also falling behind academically. And I hated it! I hated it. This was my flaw. This was my challenge. This was my diagnosis, and I didn't want it. I felt like a freak. I felt like a weirdo. And all I wanted was to be accepted. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to have friends. That was it. And I remember when the kids at school found out that I had a tic where everything had to be even. So, for example, if I touch something with one hand, I have to touch it with the other hand. Or if I'm walking past and I bump my leg, I have to turn around and bump the other leg the exact same angle, pressure, everything. Now, when the bullies at school found this out, they cornered me in a room. There was 3 of them. They were bigger than me. There were no teachers. And they'd slap me across the face. And they'd wait and watch, and I had to even it out. And I'd slap the other side. And they'd laugh at me, and they'd do it again. And I hated it, and I desperately wanted to fight my way out of it, but I couldn't because I was too scared of them. So instead, when I went home, I would punch myself. That was not a tic. That was out of anger. That was out of frustration. And the fact that I had these stupid things that I didn't control, that I didn't ask for, that made me different. So as a way of, I guess, surviving or coping or just getting through daily school life, my approach was, why don't I just pretend I am normal and ignore it, and ignore people's comments and ignore people looking at me. It was honestly, it was like I was walking around with a giant elephant on my back. And everyone was like, that kid's got an elephant on his back. And I was just looking at and just, no, I don't. Everything's normal, nothing to see here. And if someone would ask me, they'd say, why do you keep twitching, man? I didn't want to admit this. So I'd lie. And I'd say, I just drank a whole bunch of Red Bull. And I'd run away. And I'd deflect it. Who watches the news before dinner? I remember when I was about your age, I was watching television, waiting for dinner to be ready, and the news was on. And the weatherman came on to tell us the weather for the next week or the next day. And for some reason, I was watching him and I went, I want to be that guy. When I grow up, I want to be a weatherman. I want to be on TV. Are you kidding? What television station in their right mind? I failed school. When honestly, when I graduated, I spelled skateboard with an 8. I could barely read or write. That's not how you spell skateboard, by the way. There's no way someone who has a television station would let a kid who could barely read or write, couldn't sit still, couldn't concentrate, was easily distracted, and tick like I put his finger in an electric socket. Could you imagine? And now, we're going to cross live over to Seamus Evans at the Sunshine Coast with the weather. Hi guys. Down here on the sunny... Oh look, there's a dog! There's no way it would have worked, right? Now, when I graduated school, like I said, I failed. I couldn't read or write properly. I went for an audition. for an audition for a kids show, to be the host of a kids show. And I got it! They actually offered me this job because I did so well in the audition. I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. Straight out of school, my first job was as a TV presenter. But see, I didn't tell them that I had Tourette's. So within the first week, I was in the office and the boss pulled me aside and he said, "Why do you keep twitching like that?" And I said, "Oh, well, I've got Tourette's." Now, when we were kids, we were scared of the dark. Why? Because we can't see what's in it. And our brains, to keep us safe and stop going into the dark, into the unknown, will invent a monster that isn't there to stop you from going into potentially something dangerous and in harm's way. If you don't know, your brain creates the worst. And that was the exact reaction this boss had when I told him that I had Tourette's. He thought, "Oh, this is going to be a disaster. This is going to be a nightmare." So he pulled me aside and he said, "Listen, if your Tourette's, if your tics, if this neurodiverse condition that you didn't ask for, if that's going to be a problem, we'll fire you and we'll get someone else." Right there at that moment, these stupid things that I didn't ask for, that I didn't want and I didn't choose and that I hated, they now stood in the way of the only thing that I wanted. They stood in the way of my dreams, my goals, my hopes, what I really wanted out of life. So I had two options. And every single person here, you will also be faced with these two options. Option one, quit. It's too hard. You can't do it. Or option two, why don't I give it my best shot? What's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to fire me? Okay. Well, let's see how long it takes for them to fire me. And in the meantime, I will work tirelessly and understand my brain, its tics, and what to do with them. Because I made a very clear decision. I will never allow this flaw, this diagnosis, this elephant on my back. I will never, this comet coming towards my earth, I will never let it to determine my future. I will never let it stand in the way. I am always in control. See, everybody sitting here, you might not know this, but you are in a lot more control than you realise. We are all the authors of our own narrative. You don't get to choose what happens to you, but you are always in control of your next decision, your next move, your actions, your feelings, your emotions, and what you choose to do next. So I decided, you know what? Let's work this brain out. Let's work these tics out. Let's understand them. Let's manipulate them. Let's see what I can do with them. I'm in control, not them. So every morning I'd wake up and I'd ask myself, how am I feeling? Am I tired? Am I angry? Am I anxious? Am I excited? Am I happy? And I would understand which moods made me tick more and which moods made me tick less. And then, when my brain would send that message to my body, I'd catch it. And I'd go, okay, I'm getting that itch. And I thought, instead of scratching that itch like this, maybe I could scratch it like this. Or like this. Or like this. Maybe there's a different way to scratch that itch. Now, if I tick 200 times a day, and every single tick I do slightly differently, over 3 months, that's 18,000 different variations of that tick. Remember the comet coming towards Earth? Changing it by 1 degree over hundreds of thousands of kilometers? Well, changing a tiny little percentage of my tick over 3 months, I would get a completely different reaction. Now, guess what? They didn't find it. In fact, I went on to host on national television for Channel 10 a kids show called Toaster TV, and we would record episodes in Dreamworld, Movie World, SeaWorld, Wet n Wild. We went all over Australia. We went all over the world. Who loves Lord of the Rings? Does anyone watch Lord of the Rings? You know the character Gollum? I went over to New Zealand. Where they filmed Lord of the Rings, and I held the green suit for CGI that the actor who plays Gollum, and I held it and I said, my precious. Or who loves Star Wars? I went over to San Francisco where they make Star Wars, And I saw with my own eyes George Lucas. This is the creator of Star Wars. And I saw him walk and I said, "George, I am your father." He didn't find it very funny. I went it was amazing. I had such a good time. But it was only because I accepted that I had this thing that made me different. And I accepted who I was and my brain and how it worked. And I understood how to use it. Rather than running away from it, rather than sweeping it under the rug or pretending or getting angry and blaming the world and blaming the life that I was born into, I accepted it, I embraced it, and I decided to work on it. But because I did that, something else happened. I grew in confidence in my own skin. I stopped hating myself for being different, and I embraced that difference. And I actually became more comfortable in my quirky personality, my hyperactivity, and my easily distracted ADHD. And as a result, I became a pretty good TV presenter. And so after 4 years of hosting Toasted TV, another television show noticed my presenting, and they pulled me aside and said, "We love what you're doing. We'd love to offer you a promotion on another kids' television show. We'll give you a pay rise and we'll move you to Adelaide and you can be a reporter, totally wired." Now, the difference between these two shows, Toasted TV was just mucking around, having fun, being silly. Whereas Totally Wild, you had to be a reporter, like a journalist. So you had to write, read, you had to write. You had to learn how to tell stories through pictures and write scripts and research. I spelled skateboard with an 8. I could barely read or write, man. So I was faced with those two problems again. Option 1, Seamus, this is embarrassing. You're 23, you can't read or write properly. You should quit and do something else. Or option 2, hey, you've come this far. Let's see how much further you can go. Let's push yourself. Push that envelope. Let's test yourself. Let's get better. Incrementally improving just by 1% every single day. And I thought, righto, I'll teach myself how to read. So I got kids' books. And I read kids' books. And then I'd finish them and I'd read teenage books for teenagers. Then I'd read newspapers. And then I'd read magazines. And as a habit, I would keep a journal. Or I would review my favourite movie. Or I'd just write short stories because I had to get better at using my words as tools. Now, they didn't end up firing me. I took that job, and for 3 years, I was a reporter for Totally Wild. And this was so much fun. I had baby monkeys jumping all over me. I went diving with great white sharks. I even held, in my hand, a far north Queensland barking tarantula. Do you know why they call them a barking tarantula? They rub their back legs together, and they go, "Yeah!" You didn't like that? The prep kids love it when I say that joke. No, they rub their back legs together and go. It's like they have Tourette syndrome themselves, including spiders. Do you guys want to see my time on television? Yeah! I reckon we can do a bit louder. Do you want to see my time on TV? Yeah! Okay, everybody, looking up here.
It's an easy choice to make. If you want to feel as cool and trendy, just like my music, thank you so much for joining us on Tony Wild. It's great to have you. It's good to have you in Australia. But can you explain to us what Roots and Shoots is all about? Children feel cracking through his bird and all that. He's excited to be known. No, well. I think I did a brush up on my ball, but he's going to be okay. Yes, he'll be fine.
Can you tell how much fun I had? Oh man! And guess what? Yeah, it's been fun. And guess what? It almost never happened. 7 years on national television over 2 shows broadcast all over the country, and not only that, Totally Wild was broadcast in 58 countries around the world. And that almost never happened because of my Tourette's. But because I embrace it, I decided to accept it and work on it and face this challenge and grow in confidence, total acceptance, and incremental gains and complete confidence. And I was able to retrain my brain and retrain my body. So my tics weren't so visible, instead they were disguised as my body language. How many tics did we count up here earlier? How many did you see? I tell you what, I put that video up on YouTube and I got 2,000 views. And I've watched it 1,998 times. I know exactly how many times I ticked in that video. Once. Because I use this approach of just manipulating each tick one by one tiny little percent, one tiny little detail, and exploring the different variants of it, I was able to completely change them from one tick to another. What I'm going to do, I'm going to stand here. What's your name, miss? Who? Rani. Okay, Rani, can you count to 20 seconds in your head when I say, not yet? And then everybody else, you're going to watch me. And in your head, you're going to count how many ticks you think you see. And then at the end of the 20 seconds, Rani is going to yell, stop. Do you think we can do that? Yeah. All right, so when I say Rani, you'll know. Not yet. Okay. Okay. Everyone watching, Rani, go.
Stop.
Okay, yell it out. How many did I do? 2, 4, 5. Okay. 6, 7. Okay, I'll show you what I did. The first thing I did, I tensed my stomach, then I rolled my stomach. Then I tensed my left butt cheek, my right butt cheek, my left thigh, my right thigh. I pointed to someone over there, which had nothing to do with anything. I just wanted to do that, flip my head back. And then I flexed my pec as I checked my watch and I flicked my wrist. Then I put my shoulders back. I turned my head this way and I flicked my eyelid. The point is, I strategically, because I accepted, I had total acceptance of who I am, how I was born, and how my brain works. I totally accepted it. I was able to have incremental gains, incremental changes each day, one by one, and grow in complete confidence. And I was able to turn these things into something no one recognized. And I had 7 years on national television as a result. But because I really explored my personality and I did some soul searching, I actually would listen to the radio every morning as I drive to work, and I would listen to them talking. Who listens to the radio? And I would listen to the people talking, and they would make me laugh. And I remember thinking, I want to be one of them. So I decided, I quit my job, and I moved to Melbourne to pursue radio. Now this is a very important part of this story. And everybody here will experience something similar. See, I was on national television for 7 years. And so as a result, people would recognise me in the streets, people would ask for autographs, people would take photos and take selfies, because I was a little bit famous. It was before YouTube, before Facebook, before TikTok, before Instagram. It was only Channel 10, Channel 7, and Channel 9, and I was on Channel 10. So a lot of people started recognising me. Now, when I went to Melbourne, and I reached out to all of these radio executives, see, all that attention that I had from television, my head grew massive, and I grew this giant ego, and I became arrogant. And I had this notion of, I'm invincible. Everyone treats me like this would be easy to get a breakfast radio job. So when I went to Melbourne, and I reached out to all the different radio stations, they all rejected me. They all said no. They didn't want to meet with me, they didn't reply to my emails, they didn't answer my calls. Remember how I told you people who are neurodiverse are prone to mental health problems like depression? Well, this giant ego that I had popped like a balloon. And as a result, being professionally rejected over and over and over, I slipped into a horrible depression. And my brain would play tricks on me and would whisper insults. And this little voice, Shanners, you suck. You're not good enough. You're not funny. No one likes you. You're stupid. You should quit. It's never going to happen. Give up. You don't deserve this. Now, you know your green oval that you place things on, just there? If you drive a car from point A to point B, from one side to the other, back and forth every day, dirt tracks will form. But if one day you decide to drive the car from point A up to point C, and then create a new path, in time, those dirt tracks will grow green, and you will create new dirt tracks. Our brains act the same way. We can actually redirect our thoughts, and we can create new neural pathways. And this negative self-talk, constantly putting me down every single day, I had to do everything in my power to build myself up so I could continue being met with rejection. I had to build resilience skills. Has anyone heard of that word resilience? Resilience is just getting back to normal after a difficult situation. And we're all met with difficult situations. When life knocks you down, quickly getting back up, that is resilience. So I had to do everything in my power to continue getting knocked down. So the first thing I had to do was change how I spoke about myself. Have you ever heard of the theory, if you speak to plants, those plants grow faster? Have you heard this? So my dad decided to experiment with this, and he got 5 tomatoes, and he chopped the tomatoes in halves, and he put one group of the halves in individual sealed sandwich bag on one side and good on every single tomato bag. Then he got the other halves of the tomatoes, and them in sealed sandwich bags, and wrote bad. Now for 2 weeks, every day, multiple times throughout the day, he walked past the ones that said bad. You stupid tomatoes! You are ugly, you're gross! You taste horrible! You don't even know if you're a fruit or a vegetable! Then he'd walk past the ones that said good. You juicy, amazing tomatoes! Oh, you are so beautiful and red! I don't care if you're a fruit or a vegetable, you taste amazing, I want to put you on a pizza! Oh, you're just perfect! After 2 weeks, the ones that said good were almost perfect, and the ones that said bad were rotting, mouldy. The bag has all these juices in it. If that's what happens to a tomato, what happens to you? How do you speak to yourself? What does your inner voice, your inner dialogue say about you? I learned this, and I had to change that inner dialogue. And actively, what I would do, how I changed that inner dialogue one day at a time, I would write down sentences to say out loud. And I would say, I am strong, I am courageous, I am brave. And I would say, Seamus, you do deserve this. Seamus, you are loved. Seamus, you are funny. And I would say them out loud and I'd stand up strong. You know, gorillas, cobras, and tarantulas, do you know what they have in common? When they feel threatened, they stand up strong and they show their teeth. Do you know why they do this? Because it makes them look bigger. Now, do you know they did an experiment with 2 groups of people going for a job interview. One group just sat there scrolling on their phone, hunched over, not talking to anyone. And the other group, they ran this empowering program where they got them to stand like in a power stance and say verbal power sentences about themselves. And the group who did the power stances did really well in the job interview compared to the people who didn't. So every day I would say these, I would write these out, I'd say them out loud, and I'd stand up strong because I needed to build myself up so I could continue getting rejected. Now finally, after 8 months, I got a phone call from a radio station in country Victoria. And they offered me the breakfast radio job there, and I was over the moon. See, if I had listened to my brain and said, quick, I never would have received that phone call. I ended up being a breakfast radio announcer all over the country for about 6 years. And then during COVID-19, they called us into the office after 9 a.m. because our show finished at 9 o'clock in the morning. This is after 6 years. They called us in and said, tomorrow is your last day, and we're letting everybody go due to cutbacks thanks to COVID-19. And after 13 years, my career came to an end. Not because of my Tourette's, not because of my ADHD, not because I failed school, but for something completely out of my control. And you know what I did? I moved back home with my parents, and I did nothing. I laid around, I watched movies, I just had a giant holiday. And this is actually really important. I finally was able to stop and reflect and look back at this Tourette's, this comet, this flaw, this elephant. And I realized that was actually never a problem. Tourette's never stood in the way. Instead, I learned to deal with it. I totally accepted it. I incrementally gained, improved each day, and I grew in complete confidence. And I was able to turn something from a flaw into a superpower. I now go all over the country and share this story, not to show my career and say, look at what I did, but it's instead to say, imagine what you could do. If you totally accept who you are, how you were born, and everything that you've been blessed with, and each day you improve just by 1%, and you grow in confidence, you will be able to turn something from a flaw into a superpower. You know that elephant that I had on my back? Many years ago I heard a quote, a saying by a famous man in the 80s. And the quote goes, how do you eat an elephant? In life, we have giant elephants in front of us that we can't eat, and they're too big, and they're overwhelming, and we think, we can't do that. The saying goes, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do we live our lives? One day at a time. See, I hated having Tourette's because it made me different. But today, as an ambassador for Tourette Syndrome Association Australia, going all over the country and sharing it, I love having Tourette's because it makes me different. Now, I'm going to share with you a photo of a student who turned a flaw into a superpower. See this yellow hat? I spoke at this school and I delivered this. And I heard the backstory of this yellow hat. See, 15 years ago, no, a bit longer, maybe 18 years ago, a student was failing all of their subjects. They were getting D's, E's and F's in science, English and math. They were not an academic student at all. And they weren't an athlete. They weren't fast, they couldn't jump high, they were a little bit uncoordinated. They were always the last ones to be picked at sport. They weren't in the A's and B's, they were in the D's, E's and F's. But very quickly, this student, all those years ago, accepted it. accepted it and said, you know what, maybe my role isn't on the sporting field, maybe my role's on the sideline. Cheering on my mates as they play the other schools in rugby, soccer, volleyball, tennis, cheering them on. And he got this hat and he wore it at every single game, every single weekend, cheering them on. It's not a part of the school uniform. The school crest is on it. Now, as the weeks went on, students would join him to watch the older grades and the higher grades of football. And each week the crowd grew bigger. And by the time it came to the end of grade 12, this student was leading the whole school in the war cry, the school song, in all of these defensive chants and supportive cheers. And when it came time to graduate, he took the hat off. He wrote his name on the inside of the hat, and he passed it to a student in grade 11, and he said, "This is your job." And that student graduated and moved on. But that student he passed the hat to, he did the same thing. And then he passed it down that year. And then it got passed down again. And then a year later it got passed down again. And then again, and then again, and then again. 18 years, this hat has been passed down through student generation, year after year after year. Now there's a giant passing of the hat ceremony where all the grade 11ers and the grade 12ers, they get together and they do a giant war cry competition. And everyone's like, who's going to get the hat? Who's going to get the hat? Who's going to get the hat? It's never determined by the teachers. It's only the students. And I held this hat in my hand, right? And I said, this hat is disgusting! It was falling apart. It was all ratted. It had writing all on the inside. It was all faded. It smelt horrible. And the guy behind me, it's his turn to wear it without the hat. And he says, "Oh yeah, the hat hasn't been washed. It's 17 years!" I said, "Bro, why have you not washed this hat?" He said, "Well, I don't want to write the names on it." That student all those years ago had started a tradition at that school, left behind a legacy once he embraced that role. It was a part of the culture. And now, because the teachers don't determine who it is, it's only the students. The school has decided to create a plaque of every student who ever wore it through every year. And the very first year, the very first plaque on the top left-hand side, in 2007 is my name, Seamus Evans. I was that student. And the reason why I share this story is not to say, look at the legacy I left behind in my old school, but it's to say, look at what you can do. Imagine what impact you can have when you truly embrace your gift, your role, and you truly embrace it with confidence. You can leave behind a legacy. You can not only make an impact in your life, but in everybody else's around you. See, how do I live with my Tourette? We all live our lives one day at a time. We all climb mountains one step at a time. How do I live with my Tourette syndrome? One tick at a time. Total acceptance, incremental gains, and complete confidence. Acceptance is not giving up. Acceptance is redirecting your energy to what is in your control. Incremental gains, having big goals really inspire you, and it's important to think big and have giant aspirations, but small daily habits rewire your brain so you can actually achieve them. And complete confidence, and I'm going to leave you with a trick on how to get more confident in just a second. Confidence follows action. You fake it until you become it. Remember, my brain whispering negative self-talk, insults. Remember speaking to the plants faster, rewiring our neural pathways and creating new tracks on the grass. Remember the tomatoes? Remember the gorilla, the cobra, and the tarantula? I'm going to leave you, I'm going to show you something that I have done that works, and we're all going to do it together. I want everybody to stand up. Almost done. We're going to get loud. Stretch out a little bit. Copy me. Bend up and down a little bit. Stretch out your arms. Okay. What we are going to do, we're going to get in a power stance. Like that gorilla, like that cobra. Like those people going for a job interview, standing strong. What they've found, if your body stands feeling confidently and feeling strong, forcing a smile, if you do that for 2 minutes, it actually rewires your brain to release certain chemicals to make you feel like you are confident and stronger. That's exactly why cobras, gorillas, and tarantulas do it. And then, verbally, we're going to say out loud, I am capable. We're going to say, I am enough. We're also going to say, yes. Do you know how many times we are given opportunities, we are given invitations to improve or step out of our comfort zone or give a presentation in front of the class? These are amazing opportunities, but our brain gets scared, just like the boogeyman at night. We don't know what's going to happen. So we create the worst case. And our brain says, no. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to put our hands up, all the way up. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. This is going to be really loud. We're all going to go, yes! Wait. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Good. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to say, remember, confidence follows action. We need to believe that we are capable of doing something. We need to build ourselves up. I am capable. I can do it. I am. We're going to say, I am capable. 3 simple words in that power stance. Hands back up. On 3, I am capable. 1, 2, 3. The last thing, the very last thing, and I'm going to leave you. The very last thing. Now, this is really important because throughout your life, both your brain and other people might bring you down. And you might think to yourself, I'm not good enough. I can't do that. I wasn't born this certain way. I don't have this certain intelligence. I'm not physically gifted in athletics. Whatever it is, we always, for some reason, we pull ourselves down and say, I can't do it. I'm not good enough. I'm not funny enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not quick enough. We are going to say, I am enough. Because just how you are is perfect. And you need to embrace that and learn that you are perfect as you are and accept everything life has thrown at you. Remember, you don't control what happens to you, but you're always in control of your next move. And you are perfect as you are. So, hands up! I am enough on 3. 1, 2, 3! Oh, very good. Sitting down, everybody. Give yourselves a big round of applause. The amount of times I have to do those little actions when I'm feeling scared, when I'm feeling nervous, when my brain is bringing myself down with that little inner dialogue, and I've had to day by day, time by time, incrementally improve and get better each time. I have done that over and over, and I can tell you from first-hand experience, it works, and it's free, and it only takes about 5 minutes. So I strongly encourage you, the next time you're feeling down, the next time you're feeling insecure, you're frustrated, this is the cards that life has dealt you, stand strong and speak about yourself positively. Have really big goals and aspirations, and every single day build small habits to rewire your brain, and you grow in confidence. And one day you might be able to turn that flaw into a superpower. Give yourselves a big round of applause! Thank you so much, everybody!
There's a lot going on in grade 7 at the moment. We're all having new experiences, we're trying new things, we're moving around to different classes. It's good to remember when you get lost, when you're not sure where your next class is. Keep reminding yourself that you're there.